Despite Resident Evil 6 being one of the most hated games in the franchise, there's a few things that I really love about it. My favorite quality of Resident Evil 6 by far is the co-op. Like, I think in the era when we were starting to lose couch co-op and we seen it kind of dissipating and we kind of seen co-op just transitioning to strictly online, Resident Evil 6 gave us the option of couch co-op and online co-op. Not only that, it also gave us the ability to jump into somebody else's game, a stranger who we don't know, or we could jump into that game as a monster and fight against them. Another thing that I truly love about Resident Evil 6, I do love the 4 campaigns. Like, I know for some people those 4 campaigns is a little bit wonky and buggy, but I think the attempt was the attempt, but I think the idea was amazing. Like, I think that if they would have tightened some things up, shortened some stories, those 4 campaigns would have flowed a lot better. Speaking of the 4 campaigns, all of the teams eventually meet up with each other at different points. Even Ada meets up with all of them at different points, right? So the way that you interact with them, I think all of those things, despite the game not being as successful as previous Resident Evil titles, I think that to me is really brilliant and can be built upon in the future. Like, I don't think that that's an idea and concept to just throw away. Like I said, if you shorten down the stories, you make them a little more concise, and you give each story a distinguishing flair to make it specific to those characters while still keeping the Resident Evil style, it works. I just think that the way that they put it together, it didn't come out smooth. But the idea, the general premise was amazing. Now you gotta admit, the combat in Resident Evil 6 was fun. Like, each player, each character having their own set of moves, each character being able to actually fight different, I don't even think they're zombies, but each character being able to fight enemies, like, that was super cool, bro. Like, again, I understand if you look at it from a traditional Resident Evil sense, it's absolutely horrendous. But when you look at it from the fact that they were trying to make an action-packed game to kind of compete with the Uncharted of the world during that era, like, it's a dope game, man. And the combat in there was fun. Like, it wasn't nothing really better than DDT and a German suplex in the zombie. And then especially in Jake's campaign, at the very end, you actually fight the BOW. Like, that was dope as hell. Like, I also love Chris's storyline in Resident Evil 6. He starts off almost like a retired veteran that has seen a lot of wars, seen a lot of death, and is just done with the lifestyle of trying to save the world. And then you got this young kid, Pierce, who comes up and is like, look, man, I know who you are. We know you're great. Like, we know you're better than this. And then Chris says, okay, I'm gonna do it again. He goes back out there in the field and then loses his entire team, and then losing Pierce at the end. Like, and so then he's like, okay, I got it. I'm back. I'm not going to let the world down again. You know, so I think that storyline was probably, in terms of cohesiveness and making sense, that was the storyline that made the most sense. I also really enjoyed Jake and Sherry's campaign because it was bringing in 2 fresh characters. Yeah, we've seen Sherry before when she was a little kid, and we saved her life in Resident Evil 2. And we never seen Jake before, though, right? We never seen Jake, and Jake being the offspring of Wesker, that to me, that was brilliant, and it made sense. I just wish we'd have seen like some type of sign of him in RE5, but that's whatever. I think their campaign was pretty fun. They brought back the stalker element because you're being stalked by the same BOW since pretty much the start of your campaign, and then you eventually go hand in hand with him at the end with Jake, which I think again was fun. It was fun, and I think it's a reflection of the character Jake is, and the fact that he's also infected with the virus due to his father messing around with that stuff, and then Sherry being infected with another virus. I think that chemistry, that idea, that concept, it was great. I think it was great. Like, I truly enjoyed playing that campaign the most out of all the campaigns. Ada Wong also had a strong campaign, because throughout the campaigns you see 2 different Ada Wongs, right? Because in the original Resident Evil 6, you can't play Ada Wong's campaign until you beat all the other games. But throughout the campaigns, you see Ada Wong wearing this and Ada Wong wearing that. And then in Leon's campaign, you see Ada Wong hatching from a egg. And you're like, what the hell is going on? But then when you play with Ada, you get to see all the backstory, and it all starts to make sense. And then playing with Ada was fun, using the crossbow, using her weapons, the way she, slick talks back and forth with people. Ada was fun. And then when you play as Ada, you literally cross through all the other campaigns at one point or another, even if it's a brief moment. So I thought that that was a strength, right? I thought that Ada Wong's campaign was a strength. Okay, I might be reaching for straws here, but hear me out. The beginning of Leon's campaign feels so much like Resident Evil. And to me, that tells me that they can do an action-based Resident Evil that still has elements of horror. In fact, Resident Evil 4 is an example of how you do action-based horror, right? Like you could still have an action-oriented game, slow things down a little bit, put some shadows in there, add some suspense to it. You could still get the horror feel, right? Like I don't think it was impossible, and I think the start of Leon's campaign is an example of how possible it actually is. And again, Resident Evil 4 is a great example of how you do an action-based horror. I honestly think that if the consumers look past the fact that it is not a traditional Resident Evil game and play it as it is, it doesn't feel horrible. Again, I do understand that some of the storylines are too long. Like a 6-hour storylines, when you got 4 of them, that's a bit much. You got to pull those back, right? Like, but outside of that, if you can look beyond the fact that this is not a traditional Resident Evil game, like I feel like if this game was called something like Outbreak or something like that, and you just change the characters, right? Just give them all different names and change their faces a little bit, this game would be a decent game. People are, I enjoyed it. It was cool. It was a little buggy, but it was cool. But because it's Resident Evil, we look at it differently, and I understand that because Resident Evil has set a standard for itself, and this game didn't meet that standard. It created a whole nother standard. It did a whole nother thing. So I think that if you can look beyond that, this game becomes much more enjoyable. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you enjoyed about Resident Evil 6.